Hi guys, I'm Lee. Yeah, I work as a sales engineer for Sencha, also as a technical trainer. Yeah, some of you might know me. I am also the author of a book. I wrote this book for O'Reilly um, a while ago, but it's released last year, so I'm very proud of it. I live in Amsterdam. I am probably the only Dutch person in Amsterdam that does not like to ride a bike. I think I hate, oh, I know it, I hate riding a bike. And I can tell you why, because this picture is made on the central station in Amsterdam. And in Amsterdam, everybody rides the same bike. So it's very hard to find your bike back, as you can see. But I love JavaScript. I love it for many, many years. I think maybe 10 years, yeah, well, 8 years ago or 10 years ago, when I started my career. And I worked as a Java developer, as a junior Java developer, and I was telling to all my coworkers, like, hey, you know what's cool? JavaScript. And everybody was laughing, and everybody said, like, JavaScript? Isn't that language that you can animate your banners with? Yeah, well, I mean, look at us now. I mean, now if I tell people, like, I love JavaScript, I'm a JavaScript developer, people, yeah, they treat me like a rock star. They think like, oh, wow, JavaScript, that's so cool. And that is cool because, yeah, we run JavaScript now everywhere. We run it on our devices, on our tablets, phones, yeah, computer, but also on our smartwatches, maybe media centers or navigation systems. Yeah, it's cool. So obviously I'm going to talk about JavaScript today. And in this session, I will talk mostly about Ext JS. I will talk about what's new in Ext JS 5. I'll show you a little bit of Sencha Architect. And yeah, I think when we have time left, I can show you how to build a full working CRUD application. I think I can build that in 10 minutes. Who believes me? Nobody? Well, I'll show you. So what's Ext JS? Well, I know many of you know it. I think it's the framework to build apps with, or at least business applications with. And yeah, if I look back in my career for the last 10 years, I think I used most of the JavaScript, the most popular JavaScript frameworks. I think I used them all. But none of these JavaScript frameworks is so complete as Ext JS is. I mean, look at Ext JS. I mean, we have like maybe 150 UI components. We have like a full good working data package, themes. We have a full build process, and on top of that, it's all object oriented, and we have an architecture. And I think that is something that no other framework does that well as Sencha does. I'm not saying this because I work for Sencha. No, I just say that out of experience. I mean, we get all this, and that's cool. And yeah. Obviously, you could choose a different framework and think like, oh, you know what, I write all the stuff by myself, or I mix and match other frameworks and other scripts all together, but it just won't work the same as, with Ext JS, I think. So what's new in Ext JS 5? Ext JS 5, version 5, I think I'm working now with it for maybe 7 months. That is because, I started to write the training materials for my coworkers back then when the engineers started working with Ext JS 5 or start building it. So for me, it's not so new anymore. But what is new is that I think this week they released version 5.1. So I will also talk a little bit about version 5.1 for the people that know Ext JS 5 already. And Danny mentioned this already. The business goals for Ext JS 5 was, obviously touch support. When you have a working application in Ext JS 4 or maybe in 3, you want to run this application on your tablet. Hi guys, there's enough space to sit down. Yep. So tablet support is like very important. I mean, you want to run your applications on a tablet, and this is something because you guys will see me 3 times today. This is the morning. I'll talk about Ext JS 5, but after lunch I will talk a little bit more about multi-device applications, how you can create an app for your tablet, or you need to think about. So the other thing is, improve developer productivity. That means like that how we developers like to code, and how can we speed up the process and make it fun for us. And the last point, one same code base. I mean, what you want is that you, if you have an existing Ext JS 4 application and you want to migrate to Ext 5, it should be relatively easy. When you do a lot of custom stuff in Ext 4, probably it takes a while to upgrade. But if all the out-of-the-box stuff will work easily, you can easily upgrade that. I mean, there are some syntax changes, but it's not that much pain as from 3 to 4. I think some of you might know that. So we support like all the modern browsers now, and I say modern. So we dropped support for Internet 6 and 7. I think that's nice, right? Are there people that still need to deal with old browsers? EA 6, 7, or 8? I see one. Yeah. Now, I think it's true. I mean, there are like a lot of Fortune 500 companies that are still on these old browsers. And if you're a developer, you have to deal with that. So we dropped that. That's nice. Internet Explorer 8, we do support that one. And we support all the mobile browsers. So that's nice for when you're running your app on a tablet. And with this release, we have all these new features. And these are the features that I will explain about. These 3 I will talk about after lunch, because then I'll talk mostly about touch. But now I would like to talk a lot about developer productivity. And that starts with the architecture. And to talk about architecture, I thought maybe it's fun to just go a little bit back into time. And I think you guys remember this, right? I even have the sound here, I think. You remember that? I remember that. No, I mean it was a dial-up modem, right? So you had to call in, and at the end of the month, I was always scared for my dad because then the phone bill came in, and I was the one who was using the internet. So you had to log in. It takes a while. It took very long, but then you are connected, and then you could see these little friends. You remember them? Yeah. And what was also fun, because this is the internet of the late 90s, and what was also fun is that you could host your website for free. I don't think we can do that nowadays anymore, do we? Like that you can host a website for free. I mean, you had such an ugly banner in the bottom of your page, but wow, you can have a website for free. But we dealt also with a lot of problems back then, I think. People that were creating websites with frames. And you had to support all these plugins, like Java, Applet, or Flash. Or you could skip the banner if you want. And obviously you also had to deal with all these various screen resolutions, like 640 by 480 and 800 by 600. So that created a lot of problems back then because people didn't have to meet those requirements. But we had a solution for that as well. Because at least I thought that was the greatest solution ever, because what you did was you just put some requirement logos on the bottom of your page. And it's like, no, you need best view to the Internet Explorer, need to have this screen resolution, you need to have Flash or Java, so download it here. Problem solved, right? That was back then. I think the biggest problem back then was that there was no real client side. There was no client side. Because every time when you browse to a website and the server returns you a full container with HTML, very slow because we were all using the dial-up modems. So you get the website very slow in. You were downloading the website. And then you click on some of the buttons or links in a form. And again, the server returns you very slowly a full website with HTML. We didn't know any better, right? But we did know, like, oh, on a desktop, like desktop applications, they behave so much richer back then because that was a rich experience. But yeah, internet, it was slow. Luckily, that changed. I mean, we got Firefox and Chrome. They popped up. It was, I think, in 2005, maybe 2006. It created us more problems, so we had to put more of these logos on our websites. Like here, now it's best to view in Chrome. But then, like, people figured out, like, yeah, you know what? The solution, yeah, what we can do is we can use a JavaScript framework, and these JavaScript frameworks, they maintain the differences between the browsers. Like if you make an AJAX request, for example, you don't need to write it like 3 times. No, you use an JavaScript framework, and the JavaScript framework creates that AJAX request for you, and it works all the same. And I think that's important, right? Because if you create a business application or a website for a bank, I mean, you cannot put the button on the left side for browser 1 and on the right side for Google Chrome. I mean, yeah, that's not going to happen. So people use those JavaScript frameworks, or maybe some people use multiple of those JavaScript frameworks, so they use MooTools and jQuery. I mean, well, but the things became more modern. The single-page applications. That's what started to become popular, and that is like your client, or you browse to a website, and the first time the server returns you again a full web page. But now, our modems are much faster, so it sends you fast the website. And the next time when you click on buttons or links on the app or page, then the browser is not sending you a full container of HTML. No, it just sends you like little messages with data. And that data can be in XML or it can be in JSON. It's fine. And yeah, it behaves much richer, of course, right? I mean, you can now click, and it almost looks like native apps, like desktop applications. So this is nice. But what's not so nice is that what often, or back then especially, and what I saw a lot was that people are mixing all this code all together. So they were writing all the JavaScript in the index HTML, or in one single JavaScript file. And I mean, at that moment, it became just hard to maintain, and we call that spaghetti code. Yeah. So what we did at Sencha is that we thought, like, you know what we need? We need is a design pattern. Because we need to think about how you can maintain your code and how you can scale your code. I mean, like when you're building an app for a bank, what you want is you want to work on it for the next 5 years or maybe 10 years, right? You should still, after all those years, still enjoy working with it. Maybe you want a consistent file structure or folder structure. And it should be all nice, readable, and reusable. Because, then you can use it for other projects. So we did that at Sencha, and I think in 2011 we came with Ext JS 4. For the people that are using Ext JS 3 still, so this is Ext 4. And in Ext 4, what was new and what was special about Ext 4 was, we came with a class system, or we faked a class system, because JavaScript itself is a prototype language. It has no class system. But we created in our framework something like that, so you can write your code on the object-oriented way. And we also had dynamic loading, so you didn't need to load all the JavaScript in your index HTML and on top of your header, and that it loads all the files for you. Sencha does that out of the box. It's all in the framework, so they load the files in the right order. It's dynamic loading. And the last thing that we had was, or what we chose for, was an architecture. And that is the design pattern. That was the MVC design pattern. Now, traditional MVC, then you have like a data, a model, a view, and a controller. And in Sencha, the data, the model, which is the structure of your entity. And we have a store, which is actually data. That's like a data pool full of data records. So it's like the whole client-side cache, all your data. And we can connect that store, we can connect that to our view components. That's the view. So everything that you see on the screen, that can be a chart, that can be a grid, can be a list. And then we have a controller, and we say, now in the controller, here is where we put all our logics. You can write all our logics there. And at that moment, I mean, we are separating our concerns, right? So we have separate things for everything. We have a consistent file structure, because that's how Ext JS dealt with it. Yeah, and scalable and maintainable, right? But let's take a look more into the controllers of Ext JS 4, because controllers in Ext JS 4 are global. And that means that these global controllers are created when the application is created. Now, that also means that the controllers in Ext JS 4 are also become huge, because you put all your logics there. And this controller needs to contain references to all your views. Otherwise, it doesn't know about this view. Now that these controllers are global, that is very important to know, because, and this is something that our community asked for a lot, because they said like, yeah, but what if I create views dynamically? Or what if I am deleting my views? What happens with the logic? Well, the logic is still there in my global controller. So the global controller contains code of views that do not exist, or not anymore, or do not exist yet. I don't know, I mean, yeah. So this is why we came now with Ext JS 5, and we introduced like two new concepts: view controllers and view models. And with those, you can create an architecture that is more like MVVM. We can also do two-way data binding. I will explain that. So we're still separating the concerns. As you can see, we still have data model, and we have a view. So it's the same. But what's new is a view controller and a view model. Now the view controller, again, this is where you place your logics. But these logics, they belong to a particular view. So that means every time when I create new views or when I am deleting views, these logics, they come and go. So that's very nice. You don't need to write that all up front in your global controller. No, they belong to a particular view. You can still use global controllers if you want. You can still use the MVC architecture, because like Ext JS 5 has support for fallback support for Ext JS 4 architectures. So you can do that. You can also say like, oh, I have some global logics that do not belong to this particular view. So I can create a view controller for the viewport. So it's in fact global, because the viewport is the view that's always there. Yeah. So this is an important connection. The other layer is the view model. And that view model, that allows us to do data binding, or two-way data binding. Here you see that. Two-way data binding is basically the live synchronization of your data. So imagine that you have a form and you have a detail panel. And you can type your data in the form, and it live updates the detail panel for you. You can do that stuff with the view model. The view model, just watching the view for you. Like the live synchronization, is that stuff that you couldn't do with Ext 4 or other code? No, you could still do that, but in Ext 4 it would probably be a lot of lines of code. I mean, you need to create references to both views, and then you need to auto-update all both views. So it was possible in Ext 4, but in Ext 5, because of the view model, it's much easier, and it reduces our code. It's just probably like 1 or 2 lines, and you have that synchronization created. And we see here an example. So imagine that this is your view model, and a view model can contain data. It can contain stores, like sets of data. And it can contain formulas. And formulas are more like methods, or like calculations. You can put that all in a view model. And then you bind that data, you bind that to view components. So here I'm binding my data, which is the title. I'm binding it to the title of the component, of the panel. And I am also binding it to the text field. So what you see here. So if I would update my form here, it will automatically update my title live. We have another example here. I think I can run it. Oh. Yeah, as you can see, you can update the form and it starts calculating the value. That is because of a formula. So again, we have a view model. The view model has some data. And the first thing is we bind it to the number field. So it is watching for this field. So every time when you're updating the field, yeah, it updates basically your view model. But because of the view model, you can also hook it up to a formula, which is bound to the display field. And here I'm just doing some calculations with it. See? And that is why it auto updates it. And it updates it when I use these arrows. It also updates when I start typing. So that is really nice. So that's two-way data binding or view models. Something else that is new, it's also kind of part of the architecture, I guess, is routing. And routing that allows us to create unique URLs. And why is that important? Well, I mean, remember that I said like single page applications? Like a single page application, that means that there's only one URL. And when you press the browser back button, yeah, then you lose the page. We don't want that. We want that to all be in our browser history. So yeah, we can go back and forth. And that's possible as soon as you have a unique URL. So that is what routing basically is doing. We create our URLs, maybe because of an anchor or something in the URL. And we map that to controller actions and controller methods. So every time when you enter an URL like this, then your controller sees like, hey, you need to execute this method. And that method contains logics for displaying another panel or displaying the second page. Yeah. And because of this, we can also do stuff like deep linking. So this is nice, for example, when you send out an email and you bring the user to a particular page or view. Yeah, you can do that. And there are a couple of other improvements in our data package. I like the first one a lot. I mean, I'm a Sencha Touch developer as well. And what is very nice to know is that Ext JS 5, they took the data package from Sencha Touch and we've created like a core package from that. So it's using the same code base. And that means that, if you create both applications, you could share code if you want. So you can share code between a Sencha Touch app and an Ext JS 5 app if you want. That's cool. Something else what's also nice, and this is also something that I got a lot of questions for last year. Every time when I am teaching the concept about stores to my students, and I tell them like, look, a store, that's a data pool with records, and you can connect it, you can hook it up to your components. And then there's always one guy in the class, he always says like, yeah, but I have three components next to each other. Like I have a grid, a data view, and a chart. And when I update the data, suddenly everything, or when I sort the grid, and when I filter the grid, suddenly also the chart and the data view get affected. So yeah, that's the concept of a store. That's how a store works. Yeah, but I don't want that. I mean, yeah, and then in Ext 4, we have to do all this magic, right? You have to clone stores and do like all this hard stuff to get it working to make the data unique for the other views. And this is something why chain stores are really awesome, because basically you create one store which you use as a base, and then you can just hook up the components to the chain store. So every time when you sort the grid, the data view or the chart, they won't get affected. So that is really nice, I think. So basically a different filter or sort representation for your stores. Then we also have schemas. Those are nice, for example, for model associations. When you want to make relationships in XJS4, I think it was always complicated. Schemas made it just a little easier. And we have sessions, and sessions, those allow you to, I think I have a screen for that, yeah. For when you have like lots of data and you're editing all your data, then you can send it all in once to the server. So the Sencha or the session, they maintains that for you. And instead of doing the model.save and sending all these requests to your server, now the session maintains it all for you, and it's just one request, or a lot less requests. So that's really nice. This is also new, charts. We now make use of the Sencha Touch chart package. And yeah, so we can have we have like much more charts available than back then. They're also better to customize. That is because XJS5 make use of HTML5 canvas. It's a modern browser, so HTML5. And I think in Ext4 we used SVGs. And I think in Ext3 we used Flash, right? Yeah. So yeah, it's much newer, it's much faster. It also runs on mobile devices. These charts, they're great to customize. And what's also great is you can create chart interactions. And I'll show you that later today. But you can swipe on your chart or pinch, and then you zoom the chart. That's cool. This chart that you see here, this is actually new from XJS 5.1, which was released this week. We can now also create 3D bar charts or 3D column charts. Yeah. By the way, these column charts, I think in XJS 4 you had two different ones. You had column chart and bar chart, which was basically the same but just shifted. In Ext 5 it's just one, and you just set the orientation. So you just say if it's shifted or not. We also have dashboards. Dashboards, so those are nice for if you want to create a portal. I think you can see it a little, yeah. So you can drag around your views, and when you drop it, it detects where you can let it loose, and it calculates these panels for you. Yeah, I think that's nice. Tag fields. You can compare this with Google Gmail, for example. When you type an email address, then you get like this little tag in your email field, and then you can click on the cross, and then it deletes the tag. We have something like that as well, but in XJS 5 it's a combo box, so it's like a select field, but yeah, you can multi-select multiple options, and then it shows you as a tag. We have widgets. Now widgets, because often I see people with Ext4, what they try to do was they put like components in every grid field, or maybe even charts. And yeah, at the moment when you put components in a grid, like in Ext4, yeah, then everything's slowed down, because like all these components in XJS, they have like a full component cycle, and yeah, that's just too much performance-wise. So in Ext 5, we come with a new concept, and we call that widgets. And basically, those are like lightweight components. So they're not extending ext.component. No, they are a widget on itself. Lightweight. They don't have listeners and such. Yeah, they're not part of the same component life cycle. And because these are so lightweight, you can put them in a grid and they perform like super fast. So when you would scroll this grid, yeah, and then it still performs really well. You can see it here. Now we have like progress bar widgets, slider widgets, and the spark lines. Those are like mini charts. You can configure them. These are also HTML5 canvas. Basically, you are reusing these little widgets. think I tried to look into under the hood what's going on. I think it created one of these widgets and it's reusing it everywhere. Yeah. The buttons, that is not part out of the box, but you can just extend Ext widget and then create your own widgets like that. Oh. If you look back here, you see this is in a grid, a widget config. So you create a widget column basically, and then you can set up which widget you want to use. So you can use widgets in a grid, but you can also use them anywhere else. If you want to put a widget in a panel, that's fine as well. You can do that. This is new in Ext 5.1. So this week, we also released the rating widget. So it's not a component actually, it's a widget, lightweight. Yeah, it has these star ratings, so it maps to an integer, to a number. And yeah, you can just select and match the rating you give. What's nice to know is that these star images, those are icon fonts. So you can customize it, and yeah, they always maintain the quality because they are factors. These widgets, by the way, they are part of the Ext UX package. So it's a new package. You need to enable that package in your app.json file. We have the picker components. These are also new in Ext 5.1, so this week. And actually, I think these color pickers, they were born in Architect. So Sencha Architect, they released like a color picker that you could choose your colors for your theme, and we thought like, oh, those color pickers are so nice, we can use them also in our frameworks, and that is what we did. Let me stand here. I hope then you don't hear my noise. Yeah, so we're using these color pickers now in our framework. What is nice also is that the date and time pickers, we know the date time picker from our calendar field, right? So when you have a date time field, then it shows you the little Ext JS calendar. Now you can also use that as a component itself. So you don't need to use the form field for that. And the color picker, by the way, well, we have 3 different types of color pickers. I think this is the simple one, where you just select the color. But there is also a color select field. You can, maybe you know it from Photoshop, that you have like the color picker. You can select a range of colors, and it shows you the color code. So X type color picker. Yeah, this is also great. We have our selection model, selection model spreadsheet. So you can create a more like Excel kind of grid. So you can select like ranges of cells, or you can select columns. I mean, this is something that you couldn't do with a normal grid. Now we can do that with our grids when you set the selection model to spreadsheet. And what we also have is a clipboard plugin. So you can hook up a plugin, and then every time when you do Control C, copy or paste, then you can copy the content of your grid over to other applications. So that is also cool. Something that a lot of people asked for back then, I think. So that was about it, about the new stuff, and I'm not sure how much time we have. I think we have a lot of time. So I can showcase Sencha Architect. But what is new in Ext, or in this Sencha Architect version, and I think you guys can also use it all yourself, is you see this little button here. That is the Data UI Builder button. And just let's try it out. When you click it, let me see. I need to see if I can change my screen resolution, because this is not going to happen. Yeah. Cool. Great. May I start that? So you choose Ext 5, blank project, create. Yes, it gets created. We save it to the hard drive. So, there you go. Yeah. So the data UI builder, you click there, and yeah, here this is really cool. I can create a CRUD application in like less minutes. I think in 5 minutes or so. You first create your own model. What you also can do is you can point to a web service. I'm not gonna do that. Because I don't have a web service. I'm just gonna create one. But you could even create a model based on a JSON object. So if I have some data, I can just put that data there and point to it, and the Sencha Architect will generate the model for you. What I'm gonna build is a question database. So I need a model question. And this question model, well, this question application has a model, obviously, a store, list view, so detail view with an overview of all the questions that people asked. A form view, this is the edit screen, and then we have a controller for our logics. And I will make sure that this will be a view controller, so I can show you that as well. So the question is the name of the model. I'm going to create some fields. The question field, yeah, that will be a string. I create an answer. Yeah. It's also a string. Let's create a category. Yeah, we keep that auto because, yeah, you can assign a question to multiple categories, so then we need an object for that. Let's also put a rating field there. Anything else? Okay, I could generate it and it would generate already the full application for me. I rather want to showcase you also the advanced panel. So I'll go there. Yeah, I can give the class name, questions. Yeah, title is fine. Yeah, I want to make sure that this view is wrapped to the viewport. By default, that's not the case. So by default, it creates this view and you need to assign it to your own view. But I have no other views, so I will just wrap it into the viewport. Then we have the list view. And the list view, yeah, that's the detail screen, which will be the grid. Now, I don't want the answer in the grid. I mean, people need to click on it and then you see it in the detail panel. That's what I like. So I do that. Yeah, so I have a question, a category, and a rating. That's fine. You can, if you want, specify the detail view here. So you can. I'm using it as display field. So now it will be just like a form, but non-editable. But you can also create the HTML template here and then just start typing your own template. That's what would work as well. I'm fine with these, so I'll leave that. This is the edit screen. I can just define some of the text literals like add question or edit question. It's fine. I can do some other fancy stuff here. I think I can set the min and max for the rating if I want that. What else? Oh, I think I can make sure that the answering questions are required in my form. By default, in Ext 5 applications, it will set the store to the view model. I will demonstrate you the code in a bit. But if you want, you can also choose to create a new global store. This is from what we know of in Ext 4. So you can also change the proxy there, so you can set it to local storage. I can always do that later. I'm not going to do that now. This is also cool. You can set up your mock data. So, and then it comes with all this sample data in your view. Now, I don't need 30, but 10 is enough. So I set it to 10. And what I was amazed when I saw this for the first time is, that when I created the rating field, Sencha already predicted, oh, rating, that must be an integer. And yeah, because it's an integer, it now knows also what mocking data it is. So everything looks good. Oh, I don't want 1, I want 10. The controller, now here I'm gonna create the view controller for Ext JS 5 applications, but if I want, I can also move that later to a global controller. And these are just names of the actions, I'm fine with that. And you can also set up the name, the text for the delete pop-up. Okay, so let's generate it. Oh, there you go. So this is my sample application, and it will work out of the box. Let me make sure that I can preview it. I have to save it. There you go. So this is the app that I just created. And you can see that's how the detail panel will work. I can click on the edit screen. Oh, I see the min-max didn't went well. I can change that myself. Yeah, and I mean, this is a great starter application for prototyping, right? I think this is, I mean, if I would write the code myself, it would probably take me a lot more time. So I like this. Now let's take a look into the code that was generated. Here, as you can see, here is where my store is. My store is in the view model. So if I open my viewport, let me close this, make this smaller. So you can see this is my view model. It extends from Ext app.view model. I set an alias to the view model. I call it questions. And then I create a stores object. And in that store object, I can create other stores. So in this case, my architect created an inline store, questions, with the model and data hard-coded. The proxy set to memory. So that is the view model. There. As you can see, this is my view model. You can see there is in a view model also space for formulas, but this app doesn't contain any formulas. But if I wanted, I could create that here. Let me zoom in so you can see it a bit better. So you can create formulas there. References. And this is my view controller. So this is the logics that belong to my particular view. And my view is called questions. I can see that here. This is my view, questions. So in the file structure, basically you would have, in the view folder, you would have a subfolder questions. And then it contains the views, the various views, and the view controller and the view model. And you see here this code. So it extends from ext.app.viewController, and all my my functions are written in here. This is different than in Ext JS 4, because in Ext JS 4 you would first create a reference to the particular view component, and then you would create a listener, and then in the listener you would point to an action where you would write all the method. Yeah, I don't need to do that here. I just create only the implementation. in the view itself, you would see you would see the name of the method where it links to. I think we should see that somewhere. Yeah, here you can see here you can see it. For example, this is in my view. The save button has a listener. It says click, save, and then it points to this implementation. Yeah. So that's basically how you can create a CRUD application in Architect. Are there questions about this? Yeah, I see somebody waving. Well, you can modify the code, but in Architect. Yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean that's not possible. But I mean, I don't think you either actually don't need it because Architect itself is already a full code generator, so you can just change it in Architect. This is just to kick off your application. If you did it wrong, fine, I delete it, do it over again because it's just 5-minute work. Yeah.
Yeah, but it limits the Sencha Architect to a sort of prototyper and that's it.
Yeah, well, you can, I mean, some people see it that way. You can create full applications. Yeah, I'm more a code person. I like to write code. But when I saw this generator, yeah, I really liked it because this is so much faster than if I write my code myself. Yeah.
Yeah, that is true, but I think also the community gave this feedback that we also looked and tried to work with Sencha Architect and a lot of people likes it at the beginning. But when you come this CRUD editor to put it in a real application, then you just have this code base as a start point.
Yeah.
And that's it.
That's exactly what I do. Usually when I create an application and when I need to do something difficult or something that costs me a lot of time, I would prototype it in Architect and then I copy it from the Architect folder over to my own work project. And that I love that workflow. Are there more questions about Architect or about XGS 5? Because we have a lot of time yet before we have lunch or a break. I'm not hungry. Yeah.
Still able to manage creating own components and reuse them in the Sencha Architect?
You can do that. Yeah, it's possible. You need to. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how to do it, but I've seen my coworker doing that. So. Yeah.
You have those nice fancy bar charts and stuff. Do they also work with two-way data binding?
Yeah. Yeah, data binding basically points to a store, right? So I mean, yeah, you can. For example, what you could do is you could create a grid and you can create a chart on the side, and then you select a row in the grid, and then it updates a chart, something like that.
And is there any possibility to take like more advanced chart libraries like data-driven documents that you can like include them into Ext.js?
Probably. I mean, at the end, it's JavaScript, so you can just put everything in there and extend from everything. Yeah.
It's about Sencha Architect again. Regarding the roadmap, so the future version, does XJS want to create a sort of the code that Sencha Architect generates? Is a prototype code as well?
Yeah, I mean, the code that Sencha Architect generates is really clean code. It's not like Dreamweaver back, or FrontPage back in the days, right? When you created a website and you opened the source and you get a heart attack. No, the code from Sencha Architect is like really clean code. It could be the code that I wrote myself. And yeah, the code is written on best practices. So it's also a good tool for learning or for figuring out how to code your class. Yeah.
Showed something about the date and time picker.
Yeah.
Is there a date time picker out of the box?
I don't think so.
No?
No, and we have a date picker and we have a time picker. Time picker is basically a combo box with all the times in there. Yeah.
So in the past I saw examples, I think out of the UX namespace. There was a possibility to insert wait to insert filters for grid columns. There I could set a filter with a daytime picker out of the box.
Oh,
But I wanted this component.
you wanted that component.
Yeah.
I think it's probably a plugin that you can use. I mean, I'm not sure if it is in the official Sencha plugin and that it's in our UX package, but maybe it's on the Sencha marketplace. I don't know if you know that. If you go to market.sencha.com, you can browse through all these plugins. First name, yeah?
Architect is based on Ext JS.
Yeah.
Right?
XJS 3 and 4 code.
And when does Architect understand or supports 5.1?
Oh, XJS, Sencha Architect is written in XJS 3 and 4. Sencha Architect supports XJS 4 and 5. XJS 5 is released this week, 5.1. I think tomorrow or today. I didn't connect my Architect to the internet yet, but I will probably download the update, and then I have also the new chart package and the spreadsheet selection model in Architect. So usually that's just 1 or 2 days.
So could you show, can I change, for example, the fields now? With the
Yeah.
rating field now is simply a Dropbox, but
Let's change it to a text field. So I go to the rating box here. You see it. You see that it has like this number in front of it icon. I can right click here and then I say transform. And then I say something else. So now it's a text box. Yeah. So that's what I mean. You can just change it on the fly. You don't need to have to open the generator again because Sencha Architect is basically a generator, right?
and if I would like to, for example, have some detail for log at the bottom,
Yeah,
everything
you can.
like
What I could do here is I can just use the toolbox. I can search for a panel, and then I can just drag the panel in here. You probably need to change the layout a little bit because now it looks funny, but yeah, it's all possible. Yeah, you can like drag and drop a whole application with Architect. Yeah.
As far as I know, the CMD tool, so the Sencha Architect builds on these CMD tools, so I can
Same.
CMD,
Oh yes, CMD tools. Yes.
so I can also generate some code with this tool.
Yeah.
And are there any plans to support the build process maybe with some other tools from Node, for example, Grunt or
Um.
whatever?
Well, I don't know how that works for Sencha Architect, but for Sencha CMD, it all works based on Apache Ant. So you probably can just modify the build process and hook it up to Node.js. I'm quite sure that, or do whatever you like.
But not by default. So I don't, because now
It's not by
I'm having
default
some
now.
problems with XJS 5 with the build process. Normally I was using XJS 4, some standard nodes, but now it works different. I'm using the regular expressions for the build process to build the apps. So now I have to use this Sencha CMD.
Um,
Yeah, it's kind of different. I don't know.
yeah, what I do want to say is XJS 5 is really heavily built on a Sencha CMD 5. So you need to work with them together. If you want to modify the build process, you need to look into the unscripting. But I mean, after the session, maybe you come over and I can show you some things. Yeah, cool.
I had a question to Sanchez before about is it possible with Architect to store data to schema-less database or like couch and they said no.
Yeah.
Can you tell me maybe the possibility how the best way or easiest way to use Architect?
to connect to a database, for example, yeah, the thing is you always need to have an extra code layer. So whether that's Java or PHP or Node.js code, you need to write that layer, and that is where you do all the magic. Right, what Ext JS basically does is you prepare either proxies or JSON data, as long as it's a big JSON message or XML message, and you post that to your backend scripting, and there you do the database magic. That's why.
So I'm trying to get rid of middleware, because that's why I choose the Sencha framework.
Yeah. Well, for some things you just need backend code, or you need to save everything on your local storage and use the HTML web SQL database, for example, which is SQLite. There are some stuff with Sencha Space, and we'll talk about that at the end of the day, and that might be interesting for you. Yeah.
Do you have some hints for updating the Sencha Architect projects? We have a very big project built in Sencha Architect version 2.
Mm-hmm.
And the first step in migrating to Sencha Architect 3.0 was failed because we have many overrides in our applications.
Yeah.
About we have 150 views with more than half of overridden
Yeah.
functions. Do you have some hints on do's and don't do's on writing Sencha Architect?
Well, I don't think you can upgrade that. I'm quite sure you cannot upgrade that in X3, and yeah, you probably need to rebuild it with Architect 3, the application, but the overrides you can probably reuse. You can probably just put that in a folder and link to it. Yeah. That's always the case with custom code. If you have custom override, custom components, and then you can upgrade between big versions, like major versions. Yeah, that will be the hardest part. I mean, Sencha provides the fallbacks for out of the box components, but all custom stuff, yeah.
So we're using out-of-the-box components, and we want to be sure if we migrate to Sencha Architect 3.1
Yeah.
for the latest version, that in 2 years we don't have to do that again in such a big effort.
Yeah.
We've spent hundreds of hours for developing this application.
XJS 3 code or
And
4?
latest 4.
I upgraded applications from 4 to 5, and I think personally I like it, and I think it's very relatively easy. But if I create a lot of custom components with that, with my own DOM, that I work with the DOM and I do my own event system, yeah, that are the two big changes in from X4 to 5, like the DOM and the event system.
Do you say that overridden classes are a bad behavior?
No, not at all. I think it's a good behavior, but yeah, but the downside is like, yeah, with a major update. Yeah. You're welcome.